Hello, welcome to the Word Café Podcast. This podcast has been designed with curated content that centers on the power of words. Can we really do anything without speaking? Can we really do anything without the agency of words? Yes, that is what this podcast is all about. And I am your host, Amakri Isobwe, your neighborhood word trader. I believe in the power of words, for it is the unit of creation. I trade in words to profit my world.
Hello there. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, good everything, wherever you're joining from. Yes, welcome. This is the Word Café live show. You know how we do it on the show. This is the space where we all come in to lean on one another's experience and forge a positive path. How are you? What's it like at your end? Beautiful. Far? Well, I'm good. Where I'm calling from, beautiful. I mean, Abuja, I can complain. You know, it's been a sunny season around here. A little bit, so much, not a little bit, so much of sunshine and heat and what have you. Oh, yes. So what are we going to be doing today? We are back. And I have an amazing personality on the show with me this evening. Yes, we're going to be talking about the future. You heard me, the future. She calls herself the Future Alchemist. Why is she called the Future Alchemist? I know you want to see her like I want to do. Her name is Charlotte Kemp. Let me keep it simple. When she comes on, she will tell us all about herself. Then we go into the show. And where she is, and there she is. Hello, Charlotte.
Hello, Macri. Thank you so much for the invitation to join you on Word Café.
Pleasure is mine. How are you doing?
Very, very well, thank you. It's warm here in Cape Town in South Africa, and I'm delighted to be joining you there in Nigeria.
Perfect. You know, when I sent you the invite, I looked up your profile and I was like, she calls herself the Future Alchemist. It's very rare for you to see a lady, you know, walk in this space. You know, when you talk about the futurist and all that, you have more of the guys and all that. And here we are, a lady in this space. So tell me, why did you choose to call yourself the Future Alchemist?
All right. Thank you. So alchemy is this ancient proto-science. So it was there before we had scientific method. And people were, the way the story is told is they were trying to turn lead into gold. So they had one substance and they wanted to turn it into something else. And in order to do that, they had to bring it down to the essential base elements. And then they had to experiment. And they had to keep trying different ways of doing it. And they had to take good notes about their process. And very often they consulted with other alchemists and they shared insights and knowledge. And all the time they're trying to do this. And they're also trying to not just do the physical elements, but also themselves. They wanted to be on a higher plane. They wanted to know things at a deeper level. So when I started looking at the future, I thought, as a futurist, as a professional speaker, I'm not just bringing wisdom and insight to people because the world is far too complicated. But I work with other people. We consult and we share ideas and we bring it down to the base elements. What is it we're working with? What are the models and the tools and the knowledge and the data? And then how do we bring it together to create something new? How do we create gold out of the elements that we have already? So I see this as a process of co-creation, and it's a bit of science, a little bit of experimentation, maybe a touch of magic, and we can actually have an absolutely beautiful future if we can do that together.
I like that. So what is the gold in this should I say space? What do you term as the gold?
The gold I think would be for us to agree on how to work together to create what we call a preferred future. So when we look at the future, very often we tell stories about, oh, this is bad, this is terrible, the government has done this wrong, the big companies are doing that wrong, the young people are doing this wrong. And we keep telling these negative futures about what we're expecting to see. But when we can agree on what we all together actually want to achieve, what is good for everybody, not just for one group of people or another group of people, when we do that, then we got this shared power and collaboration to actually overcome the hurdles and the obstacles and to create something that is wonderful for the country or for the region or for, whoever we're talking about. So I think the goal really is just identifying that and working together to create something amazing.
Okay. So when did this all begin for you as a profession? When did it all begin for you?
Oh, lovely. So, I've been a professional speaker for a number of years. About 15 years before that, I was doing training and I was in financial services and I stumbled around doing different topics as a professional speaker. And then one day, I sent my daughter to a career guidance counselor so that she can work out what to study for her future. And I thought maybe I could do with some of that. So I'm a grown woman and I went to a career guidance counselor. And we looked through various things. I said, how do I develop my career? And in asking and talking to me, she helped me to see some things about what was interesting to me. And she says, you are a futurist. And I didn't even know that could be a thing. And then she showed me these courses that I could study. And then when I went back and looked at the books that I've been reading and the things that are important to me and how I've always worked with my clients, I realized that I have actually been moving in this direction. So it's been a number of years now, and I've done some studies and I've written my own books as well as read all the others. But it really is kind of like a culmination of a lot of work that I've done over the years that has brought me to thinking as a futurist now. My position is that we are all natural futurists. I might be studying this and be a professional futurist, but we're all natural futurists in the work that we're doing. And we can just, with a bit of intention, become better at it.
Okay. Now, when you talk about the future for so many of us, correct me if I'm wrong, we'll look at the future as a destination, like a journey or something, like you're traveling from point A to point B. But from what you're explaining here, the future is more of an expectation, so to say. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong.
All right. So people often use this analogy of a journey going somewhere. And we see it in advertising and in coaching and so many different things. We're journeying from A to B. But the problem with the future is that we don't know where B is and we don't know what B looks like. Okay. So in my language, rather than using the word journey, I use the word expedition. So we have to get together as a group and go on an expedition, an exploration into an unknown land. So think way back when people were traveling around the world trying to draw maps of the world. They didn't know where they were going. They didn't know what was out there. It was very unknown to them. And so they can't get somebody who's just going to, like a tour guide, who's going to take them to a place that they already know. They have to take some experienced, courageous people who have got the skills to overcome the obstacles and hurdles of an expedition. And that's what, for me, the future is like. So we're not entirely sure what it is, but when we get together and we start journeying together in a team with people with different skills, then we start to find places that we want to go towards. So we can find like fertile land that we want to aim towards, as opposed to a desert or to a swamp. So if you just want to kind of use those analogies. And so it is that kind of expedition. And when we get there, we decide that this is a place that we want to be in and that it's a good place to kind of, establish ourselves in the future.
When you call expedition, what comes to my mind is the Captain Hook, Johnny Depp story, and all that. You have a crew, a captain, and they're going to search for that wonderland and what have you. And within the crew, you have engineers, you have mathematicians, you have doctors, you have everything on that, should I say, expedition. So when they get there, all of this expertise come together to even if there's someone driving this process to discover it, that is what I hear you say. Now, looking at it, hearing you talk, I see you work with organizations, try to get them to see things. How do you get corporate bodies to see or to become future focused, future thinking focused? How do you get them to do that? All
right. It's not always easy. when you're looking at a corporate, obviously there's any organization, there's a whole lot of responsibilities and the established goals and aims of the organization. They're busy with all the stuff that they have to do. And if they look at a trainer, they're saying, yes, come and give us sales training or management training or something that we can do that is specific to our business. But when you come and you say, let's talk about the future, then it's like, oh no, that's too philosophical. That's too esoteric. We can talk about that, over the weekend. They don't see it as a serious business issue. Okay. But for me, everything that we're doing in business and every level of organization, from the smallest bodies up to multinationals to governments, we should all have futures thinking or a futures focused mindset in place, because it's kind of like if you were cooking a meal, you can't cook the whole meal, do all the ingredients, serve it, and then add salt at the end. You have to have salt right baked into like the very base and the foundation of the meal. And that is what futures thinking does. Otherwise, we create plans that are short-sighted. We create strategies that do not serve all the stakeholders. We miss out on huge opportunities. We have these blind spots in our vision about what our business does. That means that we could become irrelevant in the future because somebody else is creating something that we think that's not competition to us, so why should we bother? And all of a sudden our business model is irrelevant. So it's a capacity that should be in every decision of business in every department in business. But it's a challenge to get everybody to believe that.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Hello, nerds. Come listen to the History Nerds United podcast, and let's make history fun again. We interview today's best authors, whether they are established Pulitzer Prize winners or someone debuting their first book. Let us show you that history is not a boring class you took in high school, but a place where the best stories come from. And we don't just cover history. We also love to chat about true crime, biographies, memoirs, and so much more. So head on over to History Nerds United and let us introduce you to your new favorite book and learn the story behind the story.
History Nerds United.
All right, now let us create a scenario. We want to float an organization that is into energy, and now we're trying to come up with a structure to drive the business, and somehow we get in touch with Charlotte Kemp, hearing that she's a future alchemist. How would you advise us to build that structure, have that organizational model that will incorporate what you're saying? How would you go about it?
Beautiful example to talk about an energy company right now. So much to unpack with that. If an organization is setting up an energy company in a particular place, the first thing they'll do is say, what are the natural resources? And in the past, it's been, coal and oil and those kinds of natural things that we're going to burn and just create energy. And we have it in abundance. It's all over the planet. So why not just use these coal, deposits to create fuel? Well, if an organization just sets themselves up like that, just using coal and just providing a whole lot of energy because there's enough here, then what happens if something goes wrong? The problem is that the people will say, what can go wrong? There is so much coal here. It's going to last for a very long time. Or we're using oil that is being piped in from a country next door to us that has so much oil. So why should we worry about it? Well, there could be an invasion of one country to another, which cuts down the oil supply. The coal could run out. The population of a country could explode, and have so many more people coming to an area. Now you don't have enough power. The plants that turn the coal into energy, maybe we're not maintaining them properly, and then they start to deteriorate. So we have to think about those practical things. And then also what happens when people decide, they do the science, they discover that burning coal is actually bad for the environment and bad for our personal health, and that we should use more renewable sources. If an organization is invested in coal, they're not going to think like that. if they reframe themselves and say, we are an energy company, where can we get energy from?
Yeah.
Well, we can get energy from coal and from oil and from the sun and from wind and from water and from other places. And then they can find a whole lot of ways to communicate this. But it's that kind of reframing from we are an oil or a coal company, energy supplying company, to we are like a broader based energy company. So that would be one of the first things, is to try and get them to rethink about what is their actual purpose. It's not mining the coal, it is producing energy from any of the available sources. And it's not just for as long as this resource, exists. It's, it needs to be something that is valid for the future. Why this isn't such a very good question is because we're speaking this evening a little bit later than you and I had planned, because here in South Africa, we have an energy crisis, and we have what we call load shedding, and our energy gets turned off for 2 hours at a time on this really complicated rota basis. We got apps on our phone to tell us when the lights are going to be off. And we have to now adjust our entire lives, our business, our personal lives, our eating times, if we have children, bedtimes for the children, small businesses, hospitals, traffic lights, everything has to now bring this into account. And while we are complaining about this here in South Africa, in Europe, they're having an energy crisis because of the war, the invasion of Russia into Ukraine. So, if we don't think about this, then we end up in an embarrassing situation that South Africa has right now, or in a crisis that Europe is having because, I'll say this. In Europe, things have worked so well for so long that when something goes wrong, it's really difficult for them to adjust. Here in Africa, we are innovative, okay? We know how to respond to things that don't work. We got really good plans. We've got really good systems. But when things go wrong, we find ourselves to be very innovative people. But it's still a problem that we're trying to allow certain industries to mature, and our countries have got so much to give and to export to the rest of the world. And then we're kind of stuck in this energy crisis at the moment that we have here in South Africa.
Beautiful. Now, as you were talking, what kept resonating with me is solution thinking. When you talk about future thinking, you're talking about solution thinking, because you're more or less looking at 2, 3, 4, 5 steps ahead of what is happening presently, and for whatever reason, we see that, just like you said, in Europe, a lot of things have been working for how many years now, for centuries. So they take it for granted, and it's like our thinking has become dull, so to say. We're not pushing ourselves beyond the limits anymore. And when things happen, it's like, whoa, the world is coming to an end. So more or less solution thinking. Now, I listened to one of your pieces the other day, as in you presented something in a story like manna. I think you were talking about the salt, something about the salt. So I was like, okay, beautiful. Charlotte is now into the frame of storytelling. So what has storytelling got to do with future thinking? Because you did it so well in that piece that you presented.
Oh, good. All right. Thank you. I think storytelling is incredibly important because, we can present data and information and graphs and statistics and models and things, but it leaves a lot of people confused. It can be overwhelming. There's a lot of people around the world who actually respond very negatively to too much scientific information. The data, they feel like, like educated people are trying to make them feel stupid by giving them so much data. But when we tell a story, but when we tell a story, we actually we can get to somebody's heart. We can communicate something of real importance, and then embedded in that is the truth that we're trying to communicate. And if we look at any of our religious traditions, the most important values and insights and wisdom that is taught is taught in stories. So we as people like stories. And if we're trying to teach younger people things that are important, we tell them stories, and then we kind of slowly unpack the story with the insight. So I try very often to find ways to tell stories to people, to kind of like when they're trying to remember later on what is the important thing that they're trying to communicate, that they can tell that story. Yeah. So we talked about the expedition. I actually had this model of a map and a compass and a guide, and I've got a map. It's huge, and it's got these different cities in it and different towns and people traveling across this map of time. And that's how I kind of try and communicate to people and say, if you want to end up in this village or in that village, this is going to be where we're going to. Is that what we want? Is that the life of the future we're looking for? If not, then why don't we try a different direction? So we talk a lot about narrative futures. How we think about what we talk about the future is actually going to be how we approach it. If we are scared of the future and we tell stories about this dystopian world and the robots are taking over and the artificial intelligence, then we're going to be scared and we're going to shut down our human creativity and we're going to resist that. If we talk about the positive futures and wow, if we work together and we co-create this future, just imagine the world we could have. And when we do that, then we create a future. We're willing to kind of deal with some of the discomforts and the problems along the way, because we've got this beautiful future that we're aiming towards, and that gives us courage and perseverance over time. So stories are absolutely essential.
Amazing. Guys, we've been discussing with Charlotte Kemp, and we'll be talking about future thinking. She calls herself the Future Alchemist, and you will agree with me, she's brought a little bit of chemistry, physics, maths, and what have you, and in the story form. And the story is just communicating all of this essence to us. I mean, beautiful. Okay, now, what is the competitive advantage of future thinking in all of our processes? Yeah,
that's lovely. It's a phrase I've started using recently to try and help people to kind of pinpoint what it is that they're looking for. Because like I said just now, a lot of people look at the future and they think that it's just philosophy or theory or something esoteric. A lot of people think that it's like we can tell the future, we're trying to predict. It's nothing like that at all. It's really very practical. There's very simple practical steps. Yeah. But the competitive advantage means that if you are thinking, if your organization is thinking about the future, if you are anticipating the potential challenges to your clients, to your revenue stream, to your resources, your supply chain, if you're thinking about that, if you are making some potential solutions, if you're playing with different scenarios and opening your mind up and your strategy up to alternative ways of getting to your goal, if you're doing that, then your organization is more robust. Your thinking is more futures oriented. And there might be another company that is bigger or got more staff or got more income or something, or looks flashier. But if they are not thinking about the future, they're going to stumble one day and not be able to recover. In the past, we had, like the Fortune 500 companies, and they looked like they would be there for, forever. Decades and decades. And then in recent years, the companies that stay on that, top 500 list globally, they kind of rotate really quickly because other newer companies, like brand new companies, suddenly spring up in a few years and they overtake because they are responding to new trends and to new needs and things in the marketplace that the older companies just are not tools to do. They're not prepared to do that. So if we want to be, have a competitive advantage as individuals, entrepreneurs, as countries, our countries can be competitive, and our companies and our organizations. If we want to actually survive, we have to think differently. And there's a lot more thinking afterwards. We don't always have to be, it's not always about growing and not always about getting more and more money and income. It's about becoming more real, more valuable to the community and the stakeholders that we serve.
Amazing. Now, recently we just had this word STEM in our schools, the STEM education, science, technology, engineering, maths, and what have you. So listening to you now, is it not wise for us to begin to infuse the future thinking process into, should I say, STEM education, and get our curriculum, should I say, I wouldn't say changed drastically now, but remodeled to answer these questions? What do you think about that?
Okay, I think you are now my favorite host of 2022. Well done.
Thank you.
Absolutely, you are right. In South Africa, with our history and our apartheid government and the elections, when I was in school, my grade was one of the first few grades to start even learning about the African National Congress and everything that had been banned during that time. So our government at the moment believes that it's very important that young people should have a proper education in the history of what got the country here. So there's a movement to try and get history to be a compulsory subject up until matric, to the end of school. And I'm thinking, yes, but we should add something to that. We should have a curriculum that is history to futures. So the history says, this is how we got here. These are the mistakes. These are the values. These are the, the greed that got certain organizations, that is how we got here. What do we learn from that? And now how do we change this in the future that we don't, recreate those same errors, that we can help our country move into the future? And that kind of history through the futures, I think that would be an absolutely gorgeous subject to be teaching at school. But every subject has an element of history in it. So when you're talking about science, the science, maths, technology, all of them this is what the object was, or this is what the understanding was, and this is what we learned, and now this is where we can go in the future. So every subject could have that element woven into it, but it would take the education departments to change how they teach teachers, so that the teachers can teach a subject and not just teach it for the exam at the end of the year, but teach it for the exam and say, and now this is what you can do in the future with the subject. And if our teachers could do that, it would be magic. It would be brilliant.
Beautiful. We can keep you here talking and talking, but we need to respect time, and I know you have to catch up with other things. I want to say a very big thank you for taking out this time to do this with us. I know we have some energy challenges here and there, but we have future thinking, and hopefully we will get past this phase, and we'll get into that. So one last question I'll ask you before I let you go. So how do you, in all of this, honestly, I don't need anybody to tell me. I know you have a very busy schedule, but I always ask my guests on this show, how do you juggle all of this to have time for the family and, still, have that energy to push, to forge ahead? How do you do that?
Okay. All right. I will answer your question, but I just want to put one little advert in here beforehand, that I am working with two futurists who are in Abuja in Nigeria. And we are working on putting a workshop together for me to come out and work with them and to work with the different people there. And we haven't finalized it yet. It is Godwin Eagles and Emma Nyang. And we try to put this plan together. As soon as it does, I will certainly let you know. But I'd love to connect with people around this. And so that kind of then answers part of the question, is that the work that I do and the people that I get to work with are so inspiring to me. I absolutely, I kind of thrive on the energy of people discovering that there are tools that they can use, that there are insights that they can use, and that they want to be able to express it. So when I find people like yourselves, and I've been to Nigeria twice before, I cannot wait to come back. But when I do, it kind of gives me the energy to cope with all the other challenges. My husband is a writer, so he is at home and he spends a lot of time writing and publishing his work. And my children are actually both out of school already, and they're studying in university. and one is overseas and one is here in Cape Town. But they have their own lives, so we find our family time together. But I kind of work my calendar around, or my kind of diary around the clients that I'm working with and the different kind of projects that I'm working on. But every one of them has meaning to me. Every one of them is important. And that is kind of what keeps feeding me with the energy to keep going on and doing this work. That's why I do it.
Beautiful, beautiful. So what part of Nigeria are you coming? As in
Abuja.
Oh, you're coming to my city. You're coming to my city. That would be lovely.
I've been to Lagos twice. I haven't been to Abuja, and it's just wonderful. Every time I go into LinkedIn and I connect with somebody in Nigeria, it happens to be in Abuja. It's like I really have to come now and meet everybody.
Looking forward to meeting you then. That will be an honor to have you here in Abuja.
Yes, thank you very much.
When you came on, what caught my attention was your background. For a future alchemist, the background tells me of like she's going somewhere. There's this, the azuri color and everything, the blue. I mean, at the background with the sparkles and all that. Like she's going somewhere. That was what caught my attention, and I like the background anyway. I do.
Thank you.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful, guys. You heard her. The future. It's an expedition. It's not a journey. And when you go on an expedition, you have all manner of, should I say, people on board, specialists in every mechanics, engineers, philosophers, what have you. They are all on that expedition, and we're all going towards one direction to make something happen. And that's what she's been telling us here through her storytelling style, and I must say it's been amazing. Thank you, Charlotte, for taking this time. Now, before I let you go, where can we catch you on social media? Where can we catch you?
Good. If you go onto LinkedIn, you can find me, Charlotte Kemp, on LinkedIn, and you'll see my Futures Alchemist as part of my name. And I have a website, futuresalchemist.com. And if you go on there and subscribe to the newsletter, then you'll get notification of all of the webinars that I do. I do one a month that is open for anybody to attend at no charge, just to make sure that we're all still learning and thinking about these futures issues. I'd love to see some of you on that call.
Beautiful. Yes, guys, go ahead. Go search for that knowledge. Go after those amazing minds that, would give you that. Someone like Charlotte Kemp. Go ahead, get in touch with her. Whoa, but we need to let her go. Yes, it's been an amazing time. Thank you so much. You know how we say it on the show. This is that space where we come to lean on one another's experience and forge a positive path. It's been an honor. Till we come your way again. Bye for now. Charlotte, what do you have to say?
Bye. Thank you very much for the invitation to share with you. I look forward to seeing you in the future.
And we will see, definitely. Thank you. Bye for now.
Awesome time it has been with you on the Word Café Podcast today. Thank you for being there. You can catch me up on my social media handles, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, or at Amakri Isoboye. Also, you can get copies of my books, A Cocktail of Words, The Color of Words, and my HR notebook on Amazon and on Robin Heights online bookstores. You can also subscribe to my YouTube page at the same address. Yes, till we see you again. Bye for now.